Hi everyone, this is the second video of my time on the ship at Mercy Ships, and I appreciate it's been a little bit longer than I had hoped before giving you guys another update, but I am alive and well, so um, things are great. Just the delay in terms of getting another video done is I'm still learning the ropes in terms of how to edit videos, and I know there was some requests to get maybe a ship tour. So that kind of meant stitching together a lot of different things. And so, actually, what I'm going to do is there's a girl who grew up on the ship for a number of years. She's been here, and she's actually got a YouTube channel, and she's done a ship tour as well. So what I'll do is below this video, I'll just send in the description, I'll put a link to that video so you guys can have a look at what it looks like, as that's pretty concise and gets a quite good range of the whole ship in general, which will be helpful for you to know. On my side, a lot of things have happened. So since the last video, I have come out of quarantine. I've come out of restrictions, I should say. So I've got that freedom to kind of socialise and meet more members of the crew, which is fantastic. And yeah, just as I said, from kind of the last reflection, I was really in awe of how much God is working in each individual story, and through being able to kind of socialize and get to people more in the dining room and having meals together, a lot of conversations have come up, which means that you're able to really kind of get to know a bit about each person's story. For example, this week, I'm reading a book at the moment, so I'm looking up because it's on my shelf. Story of the Heavenly Man, which is about I'll read it now, about Brother Yun, who was a Chinese missionary. A friend from church gave this to me. I was able to meet someone who's serving on the ship from China, and just sharing her parents' story, and how her dad's a pastor, part of the church out there, which is heavily persecuted. And it's it's quite crazy to hear the stories out there, and just how God's grace has allowed her to kind of get to where she is now and continue serving wholeheartedly for Him. So I'm encouraged by that, and there's 100% I can say that there's many more stories like it. In terms of, just thinking, I guess another positive update from the person that I was kind of washing the dishes with. We got to talking, and actually there was one day where I think he had a bad shoulder, and it was just kind of really restricting his movement, and it kind of went on to the next day. I asked him about it, and he was still kind of really struggling with movement, and mentioned that there was actually a pain there. Not only was it kind of stiff, but it was actually hurting him, and when you're washing dishes, you're using your arms a lot. And so I just simply asked him if he wouldn't mind me, if I could pray for him and pray for healing for that. Someone else who was on shift, who kind of just huddled together, the three of us, in this little kind of tiny kitchen area in the back of this dining room, and just prayed for healing, and said to him, or sometimes I've experienced that the healing doesn't come the first time, but I've seen that if I'm persistent in prayer, I can pray 3, 4, 5 times, and then eventually it's kind of completely done, completely healed, and that is exactly what happened. So prayed the first time, so kind of felt something, but there was still kind of a niggling feeling and still a pain there. Prayed again, and then he said it had moved down to his forearm. We couldn't really explain it, but something definitely happened. And then we prayed again, giving all glory to Jesus, and that pain was completely gone. And I had a big smile on his face, and we were able to kind of carry on with our day and be encouraged that God is still moving and still active here and now. So that's fantastic. That was the first that was a big encouragement for my time here, and an encouragement to continue being prayerful in all situations. And off that, so I'd mentioned this colleague, his story previously. I touched upon it after our conversation. Sorry, after that he had shared his initial story, and after kind of praying for him and seeing that healing, he was really he had his eyes set on kind of meeting up together and having a meal together, and he wanted to tell me a bit more about his story and where he's going to be going next. He's going to be leaving the ship in a couple of weeks, going back home to Guinea, actually, and a couple of projects and charities and things that he's got going on out there in terms of. He actually has a real heart to kind of set up a school, which I think I mentioned, to get kids off the street. And in a way, he's kind of asked me to help partner with him in that and help him in however I can, and I'm prayerfully approaching that in terms of seeing what the Lord wills and stepping into what I can. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be, it will be cool to see how things go. I'm thinking, see how things go. Now, what I like to do, as I say, is, so that was my encouragement, seeing a prayer of healing and the Lord come through. My reflection for this week has been praying into a physical space. So I mentioned I kind of came out of quarantine, and with that, with the limited number of rooms and the kind of quarantine process for some new people coming on board, they needed the room that I was in, so I've moved into a cabin, which is, it's a tiny little space, but all that I need. But the reason I'm reflecting on kind of praying into physical spaces has been I've been able to join a kind of Bible study group on the ship, and one of the days we physically kind of spent an hour in prayer, just kind of walking around the ship, or just praying over that space. And I found that with this tiny cabin as well, that having a sense of release of actually where you are, that God is with you and where you are. And I remember the story where Abraham and Lot are kind of told to, well, they come to this crossroads where they pick a region as to where to kind of set up their family, and Abraham ends up with a land that is not as beautiful, not as kind of you might have heard some pipes there. He basically gets the lesser hand, but because God's favor is on his side and God is with him, he flourishes in that. And I've just been reflecting on that passage in terms of the physical space we're in, and I think that might be an encouragement for people back home as well, where you've been in the same physical space perhaps for a long period of time, and who knows, maybe there might be a second lockdown coming where you might be in those spaces for even longer. Are you making time to pray into those physical spaces, asking the Spirit's presence and being actively aware of Him present with you where you are, for your family's sake, for, tempers flare, relationships get really challenged when you're in close contact with the same people over and over again, and have a reduced outlet. So praying peace into that space even. I prayed that God's presence would be there in that dishwashing room, that kitchen, and a few days after that we see a healing miracle, and I don't think that's a coincidence. So I'd encourage you to be considerate of the physical space you're in, and invite God to be present there, and so that you're aware of His presence there as well. But for now, be blessed. I will look to create and send another video, and do that a bit more regularly, because genuinely there are great encouragements and reflections I have every day, and so I'd like to share more of those with you. And I'm still, if anyone's got any tips or ideas of software to use or things to make better videos, do let me know. Private message me, or put a comment in or message me on, for those of you who know me, and I'll be really thankful to take on those tips and that advice. So appreciate it. God bless you guys. I'll be in touch soon.